Welcome to the Great Lakes Fishing Podcast. Joining us today is a friend of the program, and he's been a guest a few times. We love having him on. He's a guy, a very detail-oriented gentleman. It is Ron Winter. Ron, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Ron, you're from Vermont, but you love to fish Lake Ontario. You fish Lake Champlain a lot, but today we're going to be talking about the Niagara Bar and kind of how you fish it with your Trailerable boat and how you move around. But first of all, just tell me a little bit about why somebody would want to do this. What's so special about the Niagara Bar that you would drive almost 500 miles to go and fish it?
Well, that's a great question because I've often heard how great the bar is. This was going back to 2003. It's always been on my bucket list. And it took a neighbor of mine that lives in the next town. He placed in the top 10 Derby in the middle of May, and I happened to see his name on the on the list that he was leading in the Derby. So I called his wife up and said, "Hey, is he back yet?" "Oh, he won't be back to after the Derby, which is a 10-day Derby, but he'll call you." But he called me and told me a little bit about the bar, and said, "Well, I'm going to go next year." And this was in 2003, and it's considered like some of the best spring king salmon fishing in the world. And we fished browns and Oswego and some kings when they come in, and when we in the 1990s, when we fished Henderson in the 80s. But this spring fishing for kings was something new to us, new to me, and something I always wanted to try.
Ron, what is it about the characteristics of that area that make it so good? Why is the fishing good in that area?
Well, it's that green water, Chris, coming out of Lake Erie, and it comes over the falls and down about 18 miles. There's this big 3-mile delta, and this green water plume attracts a lot of bait fish. And I literally, it's like a vacuum. I swear it sucks in all the salmon in the whole lake that hang off that bar in the month of May as that water warms and the bait move in to that warmer water and that green water. And it's also, what's really neat is it's a spoon bite. And these fish are only 40, 50 feet down. So you don't have to run flasher flies. You don't have to run meat. It's a blast catching them on spoons and off riggers and dipsies. And it's a very simplistic way to catch them without putting a lot of gear in the water.
So if somebody wanted to start planning a trip to go do this right now, how would you kind of go about putting a plan together to go fish this Niagara Bar trip?
Okay, well, first thing we do is we identify, the Derby was going on, and this gives us a little bit of information as far where guys are fishing. And this information is really good because you'll target the weekdays, because weekend fishermen, it can get pretty busy there, especially during a Derby. So we try to catch the most of both worlds. And by fishing, on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, gives us a big advantage that the fish aren't being pounded. And yet there's enough room there at the bar that, you can get away from packs of boats. And so what we do is when we plan a trip, we leave about 5, 6 a.m. It's an 8.5-hour drive, and mostly interstate. We get there about 2 in the afternoon, Chris, and we break down all our stuff, put the canvas up on the boat, and by 4 o'clock, we're launching the boat and doing a shakedown cruise. Because remember, we're not fishing here every day. We only go twice a year to Lake Ontario. So it's really important that when we go there, that we get all our everything crossed and our I's dotted, because we're getting everything all ready. We're doing our shakedown for 3 hours. And the bonus is catching a few salmon that night, because it's mostly a morning bite. So we put ourselves in position so that we're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Thursday, every day, and getting out there before most everybody else, setting up in the dark, waiting sunrise, and so that we're ready when those fish start chomping. Because the best bite is the first 2 hours, 2.5 hours, from 5:30 when sunrise comes up to 8 o'clock. So the other thing we do, and when we're planning this trip, we buy our 8-day license, and you can buy it online through Ontario. And I think it works out to about $23 with the exchange. This is a conservation license. It's not the full license, which is $40. This one, it just allows you to keep one salmon. Well, we'll, keep one for entering in the Derby, because we get in the Derby as well, the Lock Derby. As the Lock Derby is going on, it's the third day when we get there on Sunday. So we get our Canadian license. So if we have a hard northeast blow, which does happen sometimes, and it'll blow the cold water into the bar from the main lake, from east, and it'll push the warm water to the west in Canadian water. So by having that Canadian license, it allows us to just go left when we come out of the Niagara Bar to fish that warmer water and where the fish might be. And also there's a lot less traffic, which is nice, because not everybody gets their license. So that's a really important part of the trip, is having that Canadian license, being in a Derby. And, I'm turning 60 in a few weeks, and I've been fishing Ontario for 40 years. And we always fish during a Derby, because you never know if you're going to catch a fish that's going to, be a money fish. And we don't put a lot of emphasis on that. But hey, if you're over there fishing, you might as well be in the Derby. So that's basically, that's most of our plan when we're planning to go out there.
Where do you usually put your boat in?
Yes, the mouth of the Niagara River, there's a beautiful double launch, and there's a big Coast Guard station right there. You can see it a few hundred, 200 or 300 yards from the launch. So it's right at the mouth of the river. And when we launch out of there, it's a calm launch because it's in the river. A lot of current right there, but it's right there at ground zero. And 8 miles to the east is the port of Wilson, and another 8 miles is Alcott. So anywhere where this plume hits the lake from the Niagara River and Lake Erie, it all travels, east, and that area, the whole area is good. Which brings up the point: hey, if we see some wind coming up and stuff the next day on the forecast, we'll put that boat on the trailer and head 8 miles east in front of Wilson, because maybe they're catching some 20-pound kings, which, incidentally, you need a 20-pound fish to be in the Derby to enter a fish. There's 20 places. So, or the same with Alcott, which ties in very nicely to trailering a boat, to where the bite is. Something that we do a lot on Lake Champlain back here in Vermont. We're always trailering to the bite. So we're not stuck on a dock, and stuck fishing this one small area of the lake.
Tell me a little bit about, you did say that this is kind of a spoon bite, you're fishing spoons, you're using dipsies, but what does that spread look like? How many rods are you putting out, and how are you getting your lines down?
Okay. It's really simple. We run 4 riggers on the boat. And, when we go out there and set up at 5:08, 5:45, 5:30, we're putting 2 riggers down at 30 and 40, one at 30, one at 40, the other 2 at 35 and 45. So that first hour, the fish are really chomping, and it, because of the dark, it's low light situation, and with the kings that this is their best time. It creates a lot of, trolling these mag spoons that we're using. Our favorite are these Black Glow. One is by Moonshine. It's called a Carbon 14. And the other is the Frankenstein by Silver Streak. These are my 2 favorite spoons, and I put 6 of these in the water. So we have a 25-foot lead on the riggers. We run them, like I said, at 35, 45, 40, and 30, and with 25-foot leads. And on the dipsies, I run them at 90 feet out and 120. So that effectively, on a 3 setting, that gives us, one's running at 30 feet and the other is running at 40 feet. So that's our program. It's really simple. I don't bring any copper. I don't bring any boards. I don't bring any cut bait. I don't bring any lead core. And the reason is I like the small signature of the smaller boat. So I'm not running into people and, running into crowds of boats, which we'll troll away from. But it gives us a really small, signature. And the way the fish chomp those first 2 hours, we catch 70% of our fish from 5:30 a.m. to 8 o'clock. And a lot of the charters are coming out at 6, or some of the rec guys are coming out 6:30, 7, 7:30. And we've already got 4 or 5 kings in the box, and it's not uncommon to get doubles and sometimes triples. And while guys are still, en route to the launch area. So that's part of our strategy, is that we capitalize, and really focus in on that crazy bite where you can use 4 riggers and 2 dipsies. And what really helps us is there's just 2 of us, and we use the autopilot on our boat to help steer the boat while we're netting fish, playing doubles, and that really helps, with a small boat, keeping everything nice and straight when you're battling fish.
You're talking about we and 2 people on your boat, but this is something that you typically do with some friends, with some other boats. Tell me about how you kind of work that into your strategy.
Yes, that's a really good point. Since we've been going out to the bar for 17 years, we have developed in some really nice relationships with some folks from Pennsylvania, and also some guys from Vermont. And we all pool our information together, and we'll text each other. And sometimes we're on the radio on 68, when we're catching fish, and we share all this information. And it's a great way to come up the ladder quick. And we're dividing and conquering, fishing different areas. And once we start pounding fish, somebody will let each other know, and we'll just dial it in. I mean, I remember one time we should have went straight out and just started fishing, but said, let's go east 8 miles. Well, after 45 minutes, we didn't even move a rod. It was discouraging. This is about 5 years ago. And my buddy says, boy, we're getting them right out front. And I'm thinking, so we raced, we picked everything up, and we full speed back to the front of the bar where we came out, which is, it's about 3 miles of drop off. And the borders of deep water. We started, as soon as we put the lines down, bang, 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 all day, doubles, triples, double. I mean, all morning. We quit at 3 o'clock. We were tired. We had landed 42 salmon, had over 60 bites, and we probably could have kept catching fish, but we were just beat. And that's just a great story about, using teamwork and working with guys to help, drill it down and find the active fish.
Tell me a little bit about that, Ron. How do you decide? You're talking about you guys went 8 miles out and they stayed close. When you're doing this, how do you decide kind of where your starting point's going to be and where you're going to get your day started?
Well, typically, we start just right out front. We run that 3 miles, and it takes about 20 minutes in the dark, because we've got to go slow, because sometimes there's some debris that comes out of the river. You don't want to hit it. So we go kind of slow. I use a spotlight. And once we get out there, we set up. But other times we'll run on a 45-degree angle, follow the shoreline down, and this is, so I'm out 2 or 3 miles towards Wilson, and we'll set up there. Other times we'll head straight to the Canadian water and go left. So it's perpendicular, either out front and control 7, 8 miles to the east to Wilson, or you can go into Canada, which is, it's only, you're right on the border when you come out of the river. You turn left and go into Canada and fish, up to 8 miles away at the Welland Canal. And the Welland Canal is where the ships go. They go through from Erie to Ontario, and there's a lot of warm water that comes out of that as well. And that's a real fish magnet there. So this is all great water. And, if we're catching them in one spot, somebody 8 miles down the lake at Wilson can be still catching them, in say 150 feet of water, 130 feet of water, but at the same depths. Something Dan Keaton from Michigan has talked about a lot. Laterally, you can catch fish along a certain depth range, east and west.
So tell me about that a little bit. You guys get out there. How do you kind of navigate the boat traffic that's out there and kind of set your trolling direction and how you're going to go about doing that?
Yeah. So, the first hour is not too bad when we're out there till people start setting up. Then all of a sudden you look over your shoulder, if you just caught a fish, and there's a pack of boats coming at you. And, we troll east and west because the bar runs, along that. The deep water is north. Okay. So if we see a pack of boats coming, we try to avoid any issue and then try to stay out of the boats, and we'll just turn the boat around and start trolling back the way we came. Sometimes, you might get pinned against the bar, meaning somebody's got boards out. We'll just say a charter captain, and we try to give them a lot of yield because they got customers, and we don't want to, we know they're generally pretty courteous. So if I find I'm going to get pinned against the bar, meaning if I go to the left, say I'm trolling west, and I'm going to run into 30, 40 feet of water, Chris, with all my gear, And that's what I mean by being pinned against the bar. And I see a boat coming at me at 45 degrees with copper and planer boards out. That's just a recipe for disaster. So what do? Well, first I'll grab one of my dipsy rods and bring it over to the other side that's close to his path, so we don't lock up dipsies or run into his copper. Or if it's really close and and it's a last second type of thing, I'll put the boat in neutral and let him just go on by without a collision course with his boards or a person's dipsy. So those are some of the strategies. It's, as long as you keep an eye out, but sometimes stuff happens and you lock up dipsies. But generally speaking, if as long as you're cognizant and careful, and avoid by taking the high road, okay, and putting your boat in neutral or bumping it, you can bump it in neutral too, keep the stuff traveling a little bit. It avoids problems, but we try to stay away from the crowds of boats, and there's a lot of room too, east and west.
We're talking trailerable boats here. Tell us a little bit about your boat. What's it all about, and why did you choose that boat to do your type of adventures?
Well, I've always been partial, Chris, to a bow rider. I owned a 19-foot sea nymph my dad bought in 1985. And that was, 35 years ago. And we ran that boat for 26 years. And when I went to get a new boat here back in 2013, we settled on a similar boat because they didn't make the Sea Nymph anymore. And that was the Starcraft Fishmaster, the 196. Well, what's unique about these boats that I really like is the fact the back of the boat is closed off. You have no multi species platform where they put seats on, to make it a multi-species boat to fish off of. So these boats are strictly for trolling. And the Big Water Fishmaster was perfect, only it was a bigger version of my Sea Nymph. It was almost 20 feet. It's 19 foot 9 inches. It's wider, deeper, and it's a perfect for big water because you're not going to fall out of the boat netting fish. The boat has cutouts in the back that go halfway back, so you can run a corner rigger, you can net fish, and be only 2 feet away from the water to net a fish, which is just fantastic. Again, the high back, you get a real safe feeling in the boat. The other thing is, I've launched that boat in 80 acres this past summer in a small lake in Vermont, fishing rainbows. We were doing some family camping, and I didn't even use there was no dock there. I just spun the boat around. I was by myself, and I was able to launch it and fish. So the nice thing about a 18, 19, or 20-foot boat is you have a lot of options from a small lake with no access to Lake Ontario or Lake Michigan, some of the bigger lakes. The other big advantage is we frostbite fish here in Lake Champlain, and my last time on the water was 3 weeks ago, January 15th, and we're already looking at going back out again here, hopefully in early to mid-March like last year. A couple of my buddies broke ice this weekend and fished on Sunday. They had one warm day, and they broke an inch and a half of ice to get out.
But, I was going to say right now is probably not a good time to get out frostbiting this time of day.
No, so. I'm very partial to a bow rider. I love it. We got, the full canvas and the heater in the boat. We're protected. And it's just a very portable type of boat to go towards, you can fish the bite. You can go to the location where the bite is instead of, like I said, being stuck on a dock or something.
Tell me a little bit about how you have it set up. What electronics do you have on board?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have an HDS 7 Lowrance. I also have a tablet, a Samsung tablet for my GPS, which I download the Navionics app. So I have a nice big display there. I have troll control. I troll with my big engine. I've been trolling with a big 4-stroke engine now for 13 years, and I'm partial to Mercury because they have this thing called troll control where you adjust your speed with up and down arrows on the tack. So you can adjust and make very small adjustments and stay right on the bite and the lure action. So that's a huge one. The Fishhawk X4D, I like that because temperature is very important and speed. The other thing about bringing them up the bar is that, like Champlain, there's a lot of currents And, the fish hawk, it's very important for us to identify that particular day or that direction, the speed that we need to get the right lure action and mimic that, and that changes from day to day in the directions of the currents. And the other thing that uh, we talk about is my autopilot. This allows us, I have a Simrad, and this allows us to, hands-free type fishing. And I can't tell you how, it's how convenient that is. When we set it, we're setting lines, autopilot steering us straight. When we're netting fish, it's keeping us in a straight, especially into the waves. It has the ability, the Simrad, to follow structure and talk to your fish finder. It's the only one that has this feature that'll keep you along a certain depth contour. Using the data is plugged in with a NEMA 2000 connection to your sonar. It also does a zigzag feature, and it's just having an autopilot and a fish hawk X4D to me is just like, it's like the frosting on the cake. So I run Cannon downriggers. I love Digitrolls because they have the feature of oscillating up and down, and plus they have pre-programmed depths, and they give you a lot of, and when it's calm, that's a great feature to have. Trying to think, is anything else I missed? I think I covered it all.
Yeah, I think you got everything run. These days people can go to YouTube and learn a lot there. They can listen to podcasts and learn a lot. When you started fishing, that stuff didn't exist. So
Right.
You kind of had a few people that you learned from. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the people you learned from kind of as you went along and have evolved as a Great Lakes angler?
Yeah, what a learning curve, Chris. I'll tell you, it didn't come easy. But, back in 1980, I was a freshman at my local college here, just out of high school. We started fishing salmon. And my dad and I would just be glued to the TV set to watch Bill Safe Sr.'s Rod and Reel on PBS. And, it seemed like, the trip to Watertown and experiencing that and watching them catch brown trout and steelhead and salmon was like the holy grail. And we would get so excited, and in fact, a funny story is my grandmother couldn't make my university graduation in 1984. She was sick and she's from Ohio. So my dad said, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to graduation or do you want to go fishing the rod and reel derby? This was the first time we ever been to one. And what the choice I made as a 22-year-old. So that was pretty special, to go fishing in that tournament. And so in the 80s, we fished out of Watertown. It was only 4 hours away. It was relatively close, easy drive. And things started to slow down a little bit. I don't know if the stocking was as good there in the late 80s. And Oswego now for the 90s was our next target because the fish doctor, Ernie Lantine out of Oswego, we saw him on a show. And I don't remember the show, but we thought, wow, look at they're catching kings right off breakwater. And so we started fishing the browns in the spring. And then we'd catch some kings occasionally, 18, 20 pounds, some really nice ones and big browns. And we started fishing there also in the fall or late August, early September. And when the fish were coming back to the Oswego River. And what was nice about this port, if you have a small boat, there's a nice breakwater there. The launch, you're only a mile from deep water, which was fantastic. So, I've been to Ernie Lantine's classes. This is all before the internet, and when we're trying to, all this information wasn't around. So 2000, now we're up to 2000. And, when I was telling you about my neighbor, I called up his house to find out more about the bar because this was like this was our, we heard so much about the bar. So I've been fishing the bar now for 17 years. And a lot of the stuff, of course, is on social media, fishing reports and seminars. I've been to Dan Keating's and Great Lakes seminars. He was once here on the New York side, and taking Ernie Lantine's classes. There was a lot of information that came up the curve really fast. So, and the other thing is, there's nothing that beats talking to guys, and being friends with them, and all sharing the same information at the campground or at the hotel or at the launch. So in a nutshell, yeah, there were 3 distinct decades. Oh, and the most recent, I've always wanted to go to Oak Orchard. And last summer, I see Captain Bob Songin's videos all the time. And I was like, boy, what a July destination. So this year was the first we went to in July out to the Oak, and we had a tremendous three and a half days of fishing. And again, that was another one off the bucket list, and just some fabulous fishing.
That's awesome, Ron. Hey, before we wrap up, I just want to give you a kind of an opportunity to summarize, or if there's something that you wanted to bring up that I didn't ask you, what else can you think of that we didn't talk about yet today?
Oh, sure. Well, I want to emphasize this is my approach and strategy that works for me. You know, all this stuff I've talked about, and I'm saying for anybody that wants to like fish at the bar or at the Oak or some of these places where there's a lot of fish, just try stuff. I encourage them. You know, we're all doing the same thing more or less, but you know, it's easy to create your own pattern and stuff, but you'd be surprised how similar it is to everybody else. And you know, and the big thing is to instill confidence in a program that you're using, and that's 90% of it is the confidence of the stuff you're putting in the water and the techniques. And take notes. I take notes before we go out. I revise those notes because, again, we're not coming back out to the bar for another year. So I have a special set of notes, and I keep adding and taking away stuff so that it's more efficient the next time I go out. So basically, you know, I like the 4-rigger 2-dipsy approach. And there's so many fish at the bar, so many salmon. And using the autopilot and your Fishhawk X4D and this small footprint approach of a small trailerable boat, it's win-win-win.
Very cool, Ron. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I also want to give you an opportunity to promote your YouTube channel. I like watching your YouTube videos. They're always quick and simple, and it's not, you know, you're not sitting there watching them for 20 minutes, but you get to see some cool stuff. So if people want to find you on YouTube, where can they find you?
Yeah, if you type in Ron Winter and type in Lake Champlain or Lake Ontario, because I tested this the other day because other Ron Winters come up. But if you type in Lake Champlain or Lake Ontario after my name, some of my videos will pop up, which will lead you to my channel.
Lots of great stuff on the Ron Winter channel, especially if you like seeing some trout and salmon from, you know, a boat that's probably similar to what a lot of other people are fishing with. It's a great channel. So Ron, thanks so much for joining the show. Really appreciate having you on again.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate being on your show and spreading the word.